Zag, the #1 strategy of high-performance brands, by Marty Neumeier. Picture yourself sitting in front of your television for a moment. But this isn't the peaceful, simple screen you remember from years ago. At the bottom, a bright red ticker races across with stock market updates. On the right side, breaking news headlines flash in rapid succession. In the corner, the weather forecast loops endlessly. And right in the center, while a news anchor tries to speak, there's a box over his shoulder streaming live footage from somewhere else. Below him, bold letters demand your attention. Can he be saved? Then your phone buzzes. An email, another buzz, a text, an app notification. You feel that familiar tug, that compulsion to check everything, to stay on top of it all. Here's the thing. This isn't just some overstuffed news broadcast. This is a snapshot of how we actually live now. We're drowning in more products, more messages, more choices, more noise. The real challenge today isn't just about outperforming your competition. It's about being heard through the deafening roar of everything else. 4 decades ago, the average person encountered about 1,500 marketing messages daily. Today, over 3,000. Yet our attention span hasn't magically expanded. We're living in a world of clutter. So here's the million-dollar question. How does anyone break through? How does a company, an idea, or even just a regular person stand out when the whole world seems designed to overwhelm us? This might be one of the most crucial questions you'll ever wrestle with, whether you're building a business or just trying to live a meaningful life. And, surprisingly, the answer is elegant in its simplicity, even if executing it is incredibly challenging. It comes from Marty Neumeier's brilliant little book called Zag. The book itself is beautifully designed, what Neumeier calls a whiteboard overview, meant to be devoured on a short flight. But don't be fooled by how quickly you can read it. Inside those pages lives a secret, a fundamental principle for thriving in our chaotic modern world. Here's what I'm promising you. By the time we finish our journey together today, you'll understand this principle deeply. You'll stop seeing the world as one crowded highway where everyone's racing to go fastest, and start seeing it as an open field filled with hidden paths waiting to be discovered. You'll learn the core strategy behind every high-performance brand, and more importantly, you'll see how to apply it to your own dreams, your own projects, your own life. The secret isn't about being the absolute best. It's not about screaming louder than everyone else. It's not about cramming in more features or slashing your prices to the bone. The secret is beautifully simple. When everybody zigs, you zag. Let's start with some wisdom passed down from father to son. When Marty Neumeier was just a kid learning baseball, his dad shared a tip that would echo through his entire life. It wasn't about swinging harder or sprinting faster. It was something much cleverer. He said, "Hit 'em where they ain't." Stop and think about that for a second. Don't smash the ball straight at the fielders. Find those empty gaps between them. That little nugget of wisdom, originally from a legendary player named Wee Willie Keeler, a tiny guy who somehow maintained a spectacular batting average, is essentially the beating heart of this entire book. In today's marketplace, most businesses are doing the exact opposite. They're hitting the ball right at the fielders. They spot a successful company and think, let's do that, but slightly better. They see a hot product and say, let's make our version, just add another bell and whistle, maybe change the color. This is what Neumeier calls zigging. Everyone's stampeding in the same direction, battling over the same tiny patch of ground. And it's a game you can't win, because, as we've already established, the world is absolutely cluttered. Our brains have developed a remarkably simple defense mechanism against all this clutter. They ignore most of it. Your mind creates neat little boxes for everything it encounters. When you see a car, mental box labeled car. When you pass a coffee shop, box labeled coffee shop. Here's the critical part. Once your brain fills and labels a box, it really doesn't like changing it. For decades, businesses competed over things they could control: factories, money, patents. But today, the most powerful competitive barrier isn't owned by any company at all. It's owned by customers. It's those little boxes in their minds. If someone already owns the safe, reliable family car box in your head, like Volvo dominated for years, it's nearly impossible for another company to steal it. This brings us to the most important definition you'll encounter today. What actually is a brand? It's not a logo, it's not an advertisement. A brand is a person's gut feeling about a product, service, or company. It's not what you claim it is, it's what they say it is. The best you can hope for is to influence that gut feeling. So if you can't win by being incrementally better, and you can't win by yelling louder, how do you actually win? You zag. You don't waste energy trying to hijack someone else's mental box. You create an entirely new box that you can own. You find that empty space on the field. You hit 'em where they ain't. Neumeier calls this, quote, radical differentiation. It's not about tiny tweaks or minor improvements. It's about being so genuinely different that you essentially create a new category. Consider Cirque du Soleil. Before they came along, you had traditional circuses with animals and clowns. Cirque du Soleil invented something completely new, a theatrical, artistic circus experience designed for adults. They didn't compete with the old circus. They created an entirely new market. They zagged. The problem is, zagging feels dangerous. It feels strange. And that's exactly the point. Neumeier introduces a wonderfully simple tool to understand this: the good different chart. Imagine a square split into 4 sections. The vertical axis measures good. The horizontal axis measures different. In the top left, you have things that are good but not different. These are the Me Too products. They perform beautifully in focus groups because they feel familiar and safe, but they blend into the background, and their profit margins are razor thin. Bottom left is not good and not different. These are just plain failures. Bottom right is different but not good. These are the bizarre, pointless ideas that crash and burn. But the magic, the sweet spot where fortunes get made, lives in the top right corner. Good and different. Here's the twist, though. Things in this quadrant often test terribly at first. People call them weird or ugly or ridiculous because they've never encountered anything like it before. When BMW wanted to launch the Mini Cooper in America, all their research screamed that Americans wanted bigger cars, more SUVs. A tiny, quirky car seemed like corporate suicide, but the leaders at BMW were brave enough to zag. They trusted their instincts that somewhere out there was a tribe of people hungry for something fun, stylish, and refreshingly different, and they created a massive hit. So how do you discover your zag? You need to learn to see what isn't there. Neumeier calls this white space. Artists train themselves to see the negative space around an object, not just the object itself. Great innovators do the same thing in business. They study the market and ask, what's missing? Think about Netflix in its early days. Everyone else was obsessed with physical video rental stores. Netflix spotted the white space. Movies delivered by mail, with no annoying late fees. They zagged. One powerful way to find white space is to stop obsessing over products and start thinking about jobs. What job are people trying to get done? Take those cheap reading glasses you can grab at any drugstore. For years, your only option was expensive prescription eyewear. But someone realized people had a simple job they couldn't easily accomplish: having an extra pair of glasses for reading in bed or cooking in the kitchen without spending a fortune. Those $10 readers aren't as precise as prescription glasses, but they don't need to be. They do the job well enough, and boom, an entire industry was born from that straightforward insight. Then there's the advice from Neumeier's mother. Watching her son struggle with life direction, she told him, "Find a parade and get in front of it." This is about catching trends. A zag gets rocket fuel when it's powered by a trend. Starbucks didn't just sell coffee. They rode the wave of a more European, cafe-centric lifestyle becoming popular. The iPod didn't just play music. It surfed the massive trend of digital music sharing. A trend is like an ocean wave. You can paddle your surfboard frantically all day and exhaust yourself, or you can catch a wave and let it carry you forward effortlessly. So you've found the white space. You've got an idea that feels both good and different. Now, how do you shape it into a powerful brand? This is where Neumeier walks us through a 17-step process. Don't worry, we won't march through them like a boring checklist. Instead, let's weave them together into a story of creation. Everything starts with a fundamental question. Who are you? Before you can build anything lasting, you need to understand your passion, your purpose. A brand needs energy, and that energy springs from a genuine belief in what you're doing. This is your core, the one element that never changes. For Google, it's organizing the world's information. For Disney, it's creating happiness. From that purpose, you craft a vision, a crystal-clear picture of the future you're building. As Aristotle observed, a soul never thinks without an image. A company can't act without a vision. When President Kennedy declared America would put a man on the moon by decade's end, that was vision in action. Everyone could picture it. It was concrete, inspiring, and it aligned everyone's efforts toward the same destination. Once you know who you are and where you're heading, you need to define what makes you the only. This might be the most powerful checkpoint in the entire book. Neumeier challenges you to complete this sentence. Our brand is the only blank that blank. In the first space, you name your category. In the second, you describe your zag. If you can't fill in those blanks and honestly use the word only, you don't have a real zag yet. Let's examine a classic example from the book, Harley-Davidson. What? The only motorcycle manufacturer? How? That makes big, loud motorcycles. Who? For macho guys and macho wannabes. Why? Who want to join a gang of cowboys in an era of shrinking personal freedom. That onlyness statement becomes a filter for every single decision you make. It tells you what to pursue, and just as importantly, what to ignore. This leads directly to another crucial insight, the power of subtraction. We humans naturally love adding things. We love building, expanding, launching new initiatives. But strong brands are often built on sacrifice. You must be willing to ruthlessly prune away anything that doesn't align with your onlyness. Neumeier tells the story of Cadillac, the luxury car brand. A few years back, they licensed their name to be slapped on bicycles. Their logic was it would break through preconceptions about the brand. But all it actually did was create confusion. Wait, Cadillac makes luxury cars and bicycles now? It diluted their entire focus. They saw a fork in the road, and, as the old joke goes, they took it. A strong brand knows its destination and confidently says no to everything else. Once your zag is sharply focused, you need to build your tribe. This means asking, who loves you? A brand isn't built in isolation. It's built by a community. Neumeier shares a touching personal story about a small, humble coffee shop near his home. Nothing fancy, concrete floors, worn-out couches. But the owners remember everyone's name and favorite drink. They have a simple loyalty card that nurtures genuine community. Then a gorgeous Starbucks opened right on the same block. On September 11th, 2001, just after the new Starbucks opened, Neumeier worried the little cafe was doomed. But when he returned the next day, the line of customers stretched out the door and around the entire building. Why? Because the small cafe had built an authentic community. The owners earned a living, customers found a place to truly connect, the landlord secured a tenant that attracted foot traffic. Everyone in the ecosystem was both giving and receiving. Starbucks was just selling coffee. The little cafe was a hub for a tribe. You can't program loyalty with discounts. You earn it by being genuinely loyal to your customers first. To sharpen your identity even further, you sometimes need an enemy. This doesn't mean being nasty or negative. It means using the principle of contrast to define what you are by clearly showing what you're not. When Apple launched its legendary 1984 commercial, it positioned the bland corporate conformity of IBM as the villain, making Apple the hero of creativity and individuality. Avis famously challenged Hertz with the tagline, "We're number 2, we try harder." They used the industry giant to define themselves as the scrappy underdog. David needs Goliath to become a hero. Now, with a crystal-clear identity, you need to communicate it effectively. This starts with a great name. A weak name drags on a brand like an anchor, but a powerful one accelerates it like jet fuel. The name should be different, brief, easy to spell, and satisfying to say out loud. From the name flows a true line, the one genuinely true, simple thing you can say about your brand. For Southwest Airlines, the true line is that you can fly almost anywhere for less than it costs to drive there. That true line gets polished into a customer-facing tagline. Like Southwest's, "You are now free to move about the country." It's a single, powerful proposition. With all these pieces in place, your purpose, your onlyness, your tribe, your name, now you must build the actual customer experience. A strategy is just abstract ideas until it's executed in the real world. You need to think through every single touchpoint, every moment a customer interacts with your brand, from packaging to website to how your staff behaves. Every touchpoint must align with and reinforce your zag. But what happens when you actually succeed? What happens when your zag works and your company starts growing rapidly? This is where countless brands lose their way. Neumeier gives us another brilliant mental model to understand this phase, the competition cycle of scissors, paper, rock. Think of it like this. Scissors companies are the scrappy startups. They're small, nimble, and laser-focused. They compete by cutting out a small, profitable piece of the market from the giants. As a scissors company grows, it develops momentum and becomes a rock company. It's bigger now, less focused than before, but powerful. It competes by crushing the smaller scissors companies that get in its way. Eventually, as a rock company becomes enormous, its momentum slows, and it becomes a paper company. It may be unfocused and bureaucratic, but its sheer size, resources, and network allow it to smother the rock companies beneath it. And the cycle completes itself. Scissors cuts paper. Paper covers rock. Rock crushes scissors. Companies typically grow clockwise from scissors to rock to paper, but they compete counterclockwise. This simple game explains how a tiny, focused startup can find a profitable niche and thrive against a massive corporation. The danger for any successful company is getting stuck. Success creates processes, rules, structure, a culture, but over time, that structure can transform into a prison. Neumeier calls it cultural lock-in. The company becomes so exceptionally good at the one thing that made it successful that it can't adapt when the world shifts beneath its feet. The cautionary tale here is Sears. Sears was once the undisputed king of mail-order catalogs. They were America's most trusted destination for tools and practical goods. That was their zag. But then they tried becoming everything else. A department store, an insurance company, a portrait studio. They lost their focus completely. And when the internet created the biggest mail-order opportunity in human history, Sears was too locked into its old ways to see it. They missed their golden chance to become Amazon before Amazon existed. They failed to renew their zag, and Amazon claimed that crown instead. So how does a company avoid this tragic fate? It must be willing to reinvent itself. Sometimes this requires what Neumeier calls a two-stage rocket. You use your old, existing business, the first stage, to provide the fuel and profits needed to launch a new brand. A fresh zag, the second stage. This is what Kodak attempted, using declining profits from its old film business to fund its new digital brand. In the end, everything circles back to speed and change. The world is moving faster than ever before. Artist Andy Warhol once predicted everyone would be famous for 15 minutes. In business, brand lifespans are shrinking just as rapidly. The journey from groundbreaking innovation to boring commodity is brutally short now. The market as a whole will always move faster than any individual company possibly can. The only way to win is building a culture that thrives on constant innovation. A culture that's always scanning for the next white space, the next parade to get in front of, the next zag. Because in a world that's perpetually zigging, the future belongs to those brave enough to be genuinely different. The final lesson is simple and stark. If you're not zagging, you're lagging. As we step back and absorb the ideas in Zag, what strikes me most is how this transcends being just a business book. It's actually a survival handbook for modern life. That feeling of drowning in clutter isn't just something corporations face. It's something we all wrestle with every single day. The pressure to conform, to follow the well-worn path everyone else is taking, to zig along with the crowd, is absolutely enormous. It starts in school, continues through our careers, and echoes through our social lives. The most liberating lesson Marty Neumeier offers us is permission to be different. Not slightly different, but radically, authentically, unapologetically different. The onlyness statement is a tool I genuinely wish someone had handed me when I was 17. Imagine sitting down not to write a cookie-cutter resume, listing the same activities as everyone else, but to define what makes you the only you. I am the only student who combines a passion for coding with a deep love for classic poetry. I am the only friend who will always tell you the hard truth, even when it's uncomfortable to hear. I am the only artist in my town focused on reviving this forgotten technique. Suddenly, you're not competing anymore. You're creating, you're defining your own category. This is the shift from a scarcity mindset, desperately fighting for a slice of the pie, to an abundance mindset, where you bake your own entirely different pie. What I find deeply profound is the connection between zagging and courage. Following the crowd is easy, it feels safe and comfortable. Zagging, by its very definition, means stepping away from the herd and venturing into the unknown. It means accepting the risk of being misunderstood, of being called weird or crazy. Just like those ideas in the good and different quadrant. But as the book so clearly demonstrates, that's exactly where the real rewards live. That's where genuine impact happens. So how can you start applying this right now? Here are 3 simple actions you can take today. First, discover your onlyness. Grab a piece of paper and write that sentence. I am the only blank that blank. Don't stress if it's not perfect initially. Just the act of trying to articulate your unique value will fundamentally change how you see yourself. This is your personal zag. Second, hunt for the white space. In your school, your neighborhood, or your hobbies, where is everyone zigging? What's the one path absolutely everyone is taking? Now, look for the gaps, the empty spaces. What isn't being done? What need isn't being met? It could be as simple as starting a club for something nobody else cares about, or learning a skill that seems unconventional. That's your opportunity waiting to be seized. Third, embrace productive sacrifice. To truly focus on your zag, you need to say no to things that don't align with it. What are you doing right now purely because you feel you should be doing it? What activities are you involved in that dilute your energy and blur your unique identity? Letting go of the good enough is often necessary to make room for the extraordinary. In the end, zag is more than just a strategy, it's a philosophy for living. It teaches us that the path to success and fulfillment isn't about becoming a slightly better version of someone else. It's about becoming the only version of yourself. It's about having the clarity to see the open field and the courage to hit 'em where they ain't. That was our deep dive into Zag by Marty Neumeier. We've explored the core ideas together today, but I need to be honest with you about something. A summary like this is like looking at photographs of the Grand Canyon. You can see the images and get a sense of its majesty, but you can't truly feel its breathtaking power until you're standing on the edge yourself. The real magic of this book lives in its elegant simplicity and directness. It's designed as a tool, a companion for your journey. If anything we've talked about today sparked even a small fire inside you, I genuinely encourage you to grab your own copy. Reading it isn't just about absorbing information, it's about giving yourself a completely new lens through which to see the world and your place in it. The link to the book is waiting in the description below. Also, if you found this journey valuable, please take a moment to click that like button and subscribe to the channel. It's a small click for you, but it makes a tremendous difference for us, and it ensures you won't miss our next exploration into another transformative book. Let's keep learning and growing together.